I find the coolest things every time I go out to the recycle. 2 buckets, you say? Who cares? Big deal. Use your imagination. You've got an antique bubblegum machine, and that's what we're going to build today. One of the first things we have to do is we have to coat the bottom down here with like metallic green from probably 1950s, so we got to do a little bit of research on that. We want this to be green and silver, and then we're going to have to create a wire from here to here, and then also fill this with gumballs. And I'm thinking about, because this is such a lightweight product, I was going to use like a styrofoam ball. Probably I can actually buy them pre-colored, pre-made already, and then we have to build some type of base to hold all that together. And then down here we have to create the door and the, what do you call that? that thing that the crank, right? You put the coin in there and you crank it, and we're going to do this. So my first project is to paint this the right metallic green silver. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go online, I'm going to look up what the 1950s greens look like at the time, and then we're going to pull out the appropriate acrylic paints and we're going to mix them up. So let's do that. And today we're using a silver 995, and I chose this very special olive green number 32. This tube is a little bit older, but I do know that they still make it because olive green is a very popular color, and as you can probably see, it's all solidified on top. Just pull that off. We got to get enough of this out because we're going to be doing the whole entire bucket bottom. I'd say that would be fairly well. If not, I have to come up with the appropriate mixture again. I'm going to do double the silver. And today I'm going to be mixing this with a very special palette. There it is. Yeah. This. Usually I mix with a brush, but I really want to see what this is going to come out with. Look at that. That is so cool. That is just so 1950. Love it. That rocks. Perfect. Look at the 1956 Buick. This is great. Mix it thoroughly. And if you did it in blue, man, that would be great. That is going to be the base of our bubblegum machine. So let's paint that up and see what that looks like. If you're wondering, I'm trying to get the sticker off. Well, I got the plastic off. You know what? Since this is going to be the front, no one's going to see that. Let's just paint this bad boy up. Find out what that's going to look like. Now, there's one way of getting rid of these brush strokes on plastic, and it's using a Chinese brush. So after we put all of our paint on there, we're going to use, maybe even possibly an extremely soft bristle Chinese brush like this, and then work it in there in a kind of a stenciling motion to build it to be one uniform coating. So let's paint the whole entire bucket and see what it looks like. This is going on like a charm. I've nearly completed putting a nice thick coat over our silver green. Now, with the use of our Chinese brush, get rid of those brush strokes completely. Let's get this under a hairdryer and see what it looks like. So we put it under the hairdryer and it came out incredible. Texture, really great. We could put on a second coat. I like it just the way it is. So right now, let's look at this area right here. I'm going to paint this up green also, but I'm just going to use the... So I went out and I got these styrofoam balls, and they're all the correct size of a gumball. So these will be added to our gumball machine. Now here comes the challenge. I've had to paint all these different colors. So I have to figure out how many gumballs there are, how many will be red, how many will be yellow, how many will be green, how many will be blue, making sure they're approximately the same color value from what it would look like back in the 1950s. So we need to do some research, but let's do this. Not the most cleanest of jobs anyways, but I had originally put the styrofoam balls here in this vermilion number 7 acrylic slurry with a little bit of water, and I rolled them around and they came out like this. And what I'm doing now is I am waiting for them to dry for the first coat, and then we're going to put them back in here and see what they look like, and just continuously put them in and out until they're completely coated. Now, yeah, there are different ways you can actually take a pen and paint all of them, but it's just too time consuming. This only took a few minutes. So let's see how this looks with the second coat. Okay, that was fairly painless. Basically, I used my hot glue gun, sandwiched 2 pieces of cardboard together, and I even dug out, which I will dig out even more, the area where the coin's going to go, and I'm using my white Fila clay today to coat this. So let's see what this is going to look like after we coat it with the Fila clay. So what I did was I coated our front piece with Fila clay, smoothed it out, looks like it was poured cast iron, which is kind of cool, just like the little dents in there. What we're going to do now is I'm going to take a tool and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create a texture on here. Most of the old bubblegum machines I had, they always had some kind of textured front, so we're going to put a texture on here just to make it look like it was a poured piece of metal. I'm just using a pen, the interior. You open the pen, close the pen, just using the pen, this, putting the divots in here. Okay, so now I've covered this completely in the little divots using the bottom piece of the pen, and it has that grid look that I really want to have on there, that poured metal look. So basically now we're going to make the door. So I need to look at what some of the bubblegum machines look like, the door handle, because some of them actually had decoration on here. Someone said thank you on there, or try some, or something. So we don't know what our door is going to look like just yet. So basically I'm going to measure this and then get some Fila clay and then put a door on there. We're going to need a door for our bubblegum dispenser, and I took another piece of cardboard and I measured out the exact size. It is 4 centimeters by 6 centimeters, and all we need to do is just cut this out, and we need to shrink it a little bit because I want to make sure that that's going to look appropriate on there. So yeah, it's going to be down a bit. I knew that was going to happen. Yep, just like that. Door's going to go like this. So right now with this is we're going to coat this also with our Fila clay with a very, very, very light coat, and then we're going to put the design on there. Now you have to remember that some of these machines during the 1930s and 40s, they also had writing on the little exit where you got the bubble gum, the exit part, and it would say something like thank you, or try some, or something. So let's see what we can come up with. Now I just made a simple design around there that I'm going to pass on the overall extra stuff material like this. Interesting enough, we are using Fila, and this stuff will just fuse to itself. I'm going to show you how this is going to go. Bam! That just fuses. You don't need any type of hot glue or anything. If you want to add, say, like the hinge up here, if you want to fake a hinge, that'd be just great. Now I'm going to let this dry for 24 hours, and then we're going to paint this silver. One interesting thing, I noticed that the size of the door was not exact. I'm going to have to just fill this in a little bit. If your piece isn't there, just use the Fila clay to fill it in. So there, exactly. So it has that, you know, it fills in the spot completely. You can just move the clay around Don't be afraid to work with Fila. It's an amazing product. Like that. Oh, so you have a space at the top too. We can just move this clay exactly where we want it. Make those divots a little bit deeper so the paint will go in there. Yeah, it's gonna look pretty good on there. Next and very important piece that's going to have to be on here is our turn crank. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a piece of aluminum wire and I'm going to shape this to the precise size of our crank, and then I'm going to put the Fila clay over this. So let me build the shape and show you what it looks like. Okay, what I did was I got the appropriate size here. I made a T shape and a little area where the crank would be. And you got to make sure that when you do this and you put the Fila clay over this, that the edges are wider and this gets thinner. So let's build our turn crank now. I got to get some different clay because I'm out of my white. So let's use a different color. If you can basically vision it in your mind, you can make it. So basically that's exactly what I want it to look like. It's even the appropriate size. So let's bring our piece over. Now the mechanics would have been over here, so we're going to just add that. I'll do it at a 45-degree angle, and that's just going to fuse right to our piece. Fila clay always fuses to Fila clay. You can do two things in this situation. You can put some supports underneath here, or you can just hopefully let that dry like it is. So there's our crankshaft. It's 24 hours later and it's rock hard. It's so good. I like this, how this came out. And look what I found today. I have in my collections some silver stars. Of course, I'm using this for a shrine piece. But look at this. Look at that. That works so well in there. You know, that's just what we wanted. Actually, I wanted something that says, you know, thank you or something, but you know, that's good enough right there. Star Bubblegum. That's going to be the theme of the Bubblegum machine. Star Bubblegum. Today we are using a silver 995 alpha acrylic, and I'm going to use just a small dab of alpha black 999 acrylic. And we're going to mix, I'm going to mix that up with a larger brush here. Hold on. Yeah, nice softy. This. Okay, we're going to be pulling the black into the silver. A little bit. I'm going to add a little bit more silver to that. So, I don't know. That's a pretty good color right there. That's a pretty heavy color. Need to make more of it. Okay. I gotta cover the whole thing. So we'll just add a tiny bit more of silver, and let me pull black in there. That nice rich. Think back to your childhood, what these things look like, and you look at historical photographs and stuff, and only when you find like a color picture from an antique dealer, and you know exactly that is a really rich color. Okay, so we want to apply, I'm going to use the smaller brush with a lot of water, and the reason why I'm going to use the water is we have divots, and we want the divots to show up quite nicely. You can always go back, you can always apply a second and third coat, but primarily we want to show what we made last night. Just lay down some color. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to coat the whole entire thing and doing our crank. Let's see what that's going to look like. So now you can see the finished product, and it looked great. Now we're going to attach this to our bubblegum base. So let's build up some Fila clay and attach it right now. That's going to look so cool attached to that. But you know what? We have a big problem though. On the sides, you can see there's a space between the roundness of the container and our piece that we just made. So what we need to do is we need to hot glue it to our piece and then fill the area in on both sides. We need to let it dry for 24 hours and then we need to paint in the parts that are added. Here we go. We're applying a fairly generous amount of hot glue to the back of our piece. You gotta remember that the area that we have here is round, so we want to make sure it sticks. Okay, here we go. Bam. Looks good. Stuck right on there. Nicely. That's nice. Really, really good. Okay. Now our next area is to fill this in all with fill clay. And it doesn't matter what color you use because you're going to paint right over it anyways. Today I'm using yellow because I had run out of white, and basically we're going to fill in the whole entire area behind here. So using the fill clay very softly, we're going to get that right in there. Be careful because fill clay sticks to everything. I mean, like your work. I mean, anything that touches, it's going to stick to. Okay, very, very carefully. We want to build this up. I kind of like the coin area sticks out. It's kind of cool. Still have a lot of work to do smoothing this out to make it softer, so I'm going to use a tool. I'm going to smooth this out a little bit more. However, did you get the general idea of how that was built up around there? So once we get it smoothed out and once we get this dry after 24 hours, which will be tomorrow, we will create the silver paint again and then we will paint this up. So we are on our way. Prop making has a lot of choices. You have to figure things out. Here we have a raised area. There's a line here and we have to think about the top part. When the bubble gum was added to the machine, sometimes there was a top to it. They'd use a key, they'd open it up. And then there was a separate area where they took the money out. But in our case right here, I believe that since I like the container just the way it is, I want to just add a sticker over this that's in the shape of like an acorn with the 1 cent or 5 cent logo that would be on there. Now you have to look at typeface of the time period to make sure that it kind of works with the machine. The other thing is that our crank was built around a 1 cent American penny. So apparently I have to use a 1 cent sticker for this. So I'm going to clean up this container nice and clean, and we're going to build a top and we're going to add a sticker. Yeah, that's the color. Okay, I'm going to paint the sides. Now once we've got our sides completely painted, now we can start on the top. Okay, just a little bit. Now I got the yellows, I got the greens. So basically now I'm just making sure that they are drying properly. You can move them around because we don't want them to stick to the paper. You can always put a second coat on there. They're looking good. The reds came out really nice. So I'm just going to be moving these guys over to this one so they dry a little bit better. Okay, so you just add the appropriate color that you want to add in your styrofoam dish. Put your paint on styrofoam, and I'm just using a large water brush, and I'm just milling the color around on top of the styrofoam balls. Now you're going to have a little bit of distressing there. We're going to have kind of a marbled look. Our modern day gumballs are just perfect. You know, we've perfected that. But basically, what we're going to have here is kind of the semi-marbled effect when it's done. I remember back in the 1970s as a kid, always wanting to get gumballs out of the machine. My mom was like, "No, you don't need that." she couldn't spend the 5 cents or whatever it was at the time. I think it was like 25 cents, I'm not really sure. But if you want a little bit darker than this, you can probably see they're all sticking together, and your job now is to separate them and then put them here in the trays. Now your hands are going to get nice and dirty from this, unless you use some kind of tweezers or something. Wow, okay, this is just layer number 1. You can put these back in here. You can do coloration 2 and 3 as you like. So not very bad. But once you get them coated, you're going to take them and you're going to start laying them out. This is just a folded piece of paper, and they will stick to your finger. You're going to separate them, make sure they're not together. And the ones in the background, you can see those are on second coats. Okay, so once you get those laid out like that, you let them dry. And I can just hear one of my friends or an artist would say, why are you going through this much trouble to actually make the gumballs? Why don't you just go buy a box of them or something like that? Because I like a challenge, that's why. So to know that I made something completely the way that I wanted it made makes me feel good. So we're going to let these dry, and we're going to see what they look like afterwards. Our bubblegum machine still has this opening here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut out here a circular disc from some PVC plastic. I already had done it, and we're going to put that right over the opening. We've got our parts sealed over here. I got some Alpha Gold 997, and I'm going to paint all around the top part of this here in gold. I'm applying the paint in a very thick manner, and I'm pulling the paint up so it matches the same texture as our base. So we're going to let this dry. I'm not putting a hairdryer on that because if I do, that could actually lose that texture. So let's just let this dry. During the final stretch of finishing the bubblegum machine, I took a bubble tea cup lid and I'm going to put some hot glue on here, just a little bit, to build up an area where we can put this right in there, like this. So our gumballs that we have, install that right on there. Put more hot glue. Nothing that hot glue can't do. So when we have our, we gotta get rid of these cobwebs that I've created, but when you have the bubble gum pieces will fill up in here, so that will actually add about a ½ inch or more, maybe an inch of bubble gum to the area. So I'm also going to put a piece of clear tape across this hole so you can't see that. The part I've been waiting for to put the bubble gums into the machine. So we need to pour them into the lid first. That's the little guy comes out. Okay, now we're going to put hot glue around the top here and then put them together. Now depending on how much bubble gum you want to put in there, you can fill it up, but I like it semi-empty, so it kind of has a thing. The only thing that's missing right now is our 1 cent sticker we need to make that, so let's do that and put that on.